um, you have to have some downtime, right? Don't work yourself 24/7. So just ask them, hey, what hours are you? What are the best hours for you to communicate? Um, or hey, oftentimes I shut it down by I'm asleep by 10 o'clock. So if there's an emergency, like I don't know, just be careful. It
Yeah.
makes me nervous that you're getting into that habit right away.
Yeah. I mean, he just texted me really late and I was still up, so I just replied.
Okay. Um, Let me tell you, there's not that many real estate emergencies,
Yeah.
right? Most everything can wait till the next day. Um, if it happens at 9 o'clock at night. Oftentimes when somebody passes on this message to you, it's so that they can check it off of their plate, right?
Yeah.
And it can go from their to-do list to your to-do list.
Gotcha.
Right. And I'll give you another real interesting idea is that if I need to get a message to you, right, there's basically 3 ways that I can get that message to you. I can call you, I can message you, or I can email you. Okay. And I would say that the level of urgency is call and text are pretty similar. If I've chosen to email you, what I've told you is that it's not as important as it would have been had I called or texted. And with that said, there's never been an emergency email in the history of email. Okay. If it's an email, they're telling you it's not an emergency. If they call or text you, then I might have to ask another question to determine that. But if they've emailed you, they're just getting it off their plate. So
Gotcha.
don't receive an email and then throw your whole life into chaos. See what I'm saying? Because it wasn't chaotic for them or they would have called you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just getting it off their plate. Because as we all know, when you check something off, it feels good. So it's been on their list. They need to send this email. They checked it off. Now they're not thinking about it anymore. And all of a sudden you receive it. And no matter what you're doing, you freak out. You drop everything else and you address the email. That's not the purpose of email. Purpose of email is you'll get to it when you get to it. Right? All right, cool. Good morning, everybody. How are we?
Good
Good
All right, tell me
morning.
some good news.
morning.
Coffee's working.
Coffee's working. It's not working so well for me.
What's up, Mike?
I was
Solid source.
embarrassing myself talking to Donna this morning. My God.
You were fine.
All right, talk to me. Give me some good news, y'all. Well, Donna's about to write an offer. Come on, tell
Yeah.
the world.
I was gonna say, this is my very first buyer, and we went and looked at a couple of houses last night, and she was really interested in one of them. She wanted to sleep on it, so I wanted to be prepared because I have not written an offer before. And I received some guidance from Kathy Ray and from Bill this morning. And so I have a little bit of work to do. I'm a little nervous, but very, very excited. So my first one, and hopefully the first of very many to come.
Good.
Congratulations.
So
Yeah.
if
Congrats.
I
Thank you,
can,
guys.
Donna.
I'm just
Thank
gonna.
you.
I don't know if I should say this or not, but my job as your leader and as your coach is to model behavior, right? So Donna sent me, and this is the same thing we were just talking about. Donna sent me a message at like eight something last night that basically said, hey, I need some help with an offer. So my question was, is it an emergency? Right? To which she kind of gave a vague answer. And so I made sure she knew how to reach Kathy and knew how to reach Susan, and I made myself available if in fact it turned out to be an emergency. When I realized that it was not an emergency, I said, let's talk about it in the morning. See what I'm saying? So that's like the filter. It's not that I'm unwilling to help. It's that I don't want to teach her or any of you that it's expected that we are on all day. all night, every day, every weekend. This is supposed to be a life worth living, right? So my first question was identifying if it was an emergency. Had it been an emergency and no one else was available to help, I would have done what I needed to do to get it done, right? Because Donna's my partner and y'all are my partners. If it's not an emergency, it'll probably wait till the morning. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Very good.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. Who else got some positive news? Kim, you're about to rock it. Tell us what's going on. You're on mute.
I know. So I don't like talking about things before they happen, Bill. Okay, so I have 2 appointments today. I have a young married couple who both have homes to sell, and then they want to purchase because they, neither one of the homes, they want to have children, and so they're looking to move up from the 2 homes that they have. And then I have another appointment this afternoon with a client who needs a referral for an agent in the DC area.
Nice.
And all that happened in like 2 hours last night.
All right, talk to me about the DC referral. How did that come about?
The fiance of this young school teacher in DC, he is a client of ours because we used to live in that area. So we have lots of clients and friends that still live there. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be my second referral from there. The first one has been delayed because of Corona, but hopefully that's going to happen. And then, but I'm not going to refer her to the same person. It just logistically, it doesn't work out. So I have to go through an interview. So yeah.
All right, so remember, great job. Remember that we have the ability to refer opportunities to anywhere that we don't work, right? It could be we don't work in Stockbridge because we don't know anything about Stockbridge, or it could be we don't work in Philadelphia because we don't have a license to sell in Pennsylvania or something, right? So if you have an opportunity that is beyond your scope of expertise or too far away to make practical business sense, then we have an opportunity to refer that piece of business away. Referral fees and commission splits are negotiable, but generally they end up being around 25%. So Kim would interview several agents up in the DC area. She would offer that lead or that contact to that agent in that other market, and they would do something called a broker-to-broker referral agreement, and it would be autographed by everyone. And when that deal closes, Kim would receive 25%. Her obligation is essentially nothing outside of making the initial contact. But if she's smart, what she would do is stay in touch throughout the process. Hey, everything going okay? Anything you need? Hey, everything going okay? Hey, is there anything you need? Right? Her job is not to become an expert in the DC contracts or make sure the home is bought for the right price or any of that kind of thing. It's simply, is my client happy and is the agent happy? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Guys, we have like an unbelievable opportunity with 40-something thousand people in Bold Pivot. I mentioned this when Bold Pivot started to, be vocal, right? Be typing in things, help people out. I know Heather's posted a few, like she took a couple of the diagrams or charts or graphs or whatever and kind of tweaked them a little bit that it made it easier for her to manipulate, or for her to use, I should say. And she posted on there, she's like, hey, I don't know if this would be helpful for anyone, but I hope it is, right? If there's one person that appreciated that and then looked to see where Heather worked and then had an opportunity for her, you think that'd be a pretty cool, she'd be the agent, right? There's opportunity everywhere. So if your client is selling a home in Roswell and moving to St. Louis, hey, you can help make sure they get a great agent in St. Louis, okay? All right, if you got any detailed questions about.
I've got, I think, what was good response off of that. I mean, I had on one of the posts 200 likes and whatever, and probably 40 or 50 comments.
That's amazing, right? And you don't have to like go directly to, hey, if you know anyone in Atlanta, send them my way. You just continue to say, hey, how's the market in Minneapolis? What's your favorite part of Bold, right? You're getting into dialogue. And eventually they'll know that you're a real estate agent in another market that studies the market, that invests in themselves, that takes this seriously, that is engaged. And when the time comes for an opportunity, you'll probably be top of the list. So good work, you guys. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the schedule. Is the Bold Pivot class, and I got a text message about the it was a Bold Pivot Facebook group. Are those two in the same, or are those? I don't really understand that portion of it yet.
Let's talk about that right after. But basically, the Bold Pivot course is taught through as a Facebook Live from the Facebook Bold Pivot class or group. So there's like 40-something thousand people in the Bold Pivot Facebook group that you got an invitation to when you registered. So when you register for the Bold Pivot course, then you get into the group, and then the group is where the Facebook Live is where the content is taught from.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's also where the materials are located.
That's right. All the downloads, all the course curriculums, the scripts, and all that kind of stuff is found in the file section or the unit section of the Facebook group.
Can I ask a quick question about the referral?
Yeah.
Do you know if there's a place in Command where you kind of upload that broker to broker referral agreement? I know that you can look for an agent, but as far as putting in the agreement like you would any other document, the signed agreement, do you know if there's a place for that? Because
so a few things. Number one is you would treat that document just like it was a client, right? So you'd upload the document, you'd send it off for signatures, and then it's housed within DocuSign, right? So you don't have to do anything special. It's just a regular old file.
Okay, I couldn't figure out how to do it through DocuSign for that particular document, but I'll look and see if Sam has something to that effect.
Well, just like you search for any document, you would search for that document. It's a cart form.
Okay. Okay.
As far as using Command to find the referral, I don't know. I'm kind of old school on that. I mean, you certainly could. I'm not telling you can't, but my preference would be to call the team leader and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm Bill from Atlanta. I've got a young couple with 3 kids that, you know, they want to live in this particular part of town, and I want to know who the best agent is that should work with them. And let the agent connect, or let the team leader connect me with the right person rather than just using some type of statistic to find them.
Right, right. Which is what I did. I followed your advice and I got a great agent in New Orleans
Awesome.
for my referral. But when I spoke to Susan about it, she wanted me to also kind of log it through the command thing
so
as well afterwards.
You should do that. And then you can find her or him on Kelly or in Command.
Yeah.
And add them to your network, and then you can log
Exactly.
the actual relationship, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, make them as to whether they're a buyer referral or a seller referral. Just make that agent as a buyer or seller. Is that what you would recommend, Bill?
Say that one more time.
Like you would, I don't think there's a place in Command yet for us to do referrals, is there?
There is to log the relationship.
Right.
But I couldn't find a place to log the transaction.
For the opportunity, exactly.
Right.
So if you're
specific
referring,
type.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You're referring a buyer.
You would log, it would just be the buyer's name or the seller's name. And rather than uploading like a buyer brokerage agreement or listing agreement, you would upload the referral agreement and send that off for signatures.
And the only person that, the person that really signs that for signatures is the other agent.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I did just a tiny bit of editing to the schedule. So today at 4 o'clock is going to be the growth mastermind. And for the, let's say at least for the next month or two, we're probably going to combine growth and emerging. Okay. We've got kind of about half the group is on the launch phase, and about a little less than half of the group is on emerging and growth. And I want to make sure that we get enough people into the masterminds where it's valuable for everyone. So from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock today, we're going to do emerging and growth. So if you're 4 units or more, 4 to 5 today, please come into the Zoom room and we'll have a mastermind. On Friday, we're going to do the launch mastermind, and now I know when the team meetings are, so I won't schedule on top of that. I apologize for that yesterday. We are increasing the length of the mastermind on Friday. It'll be between 12:30 and 2. And what we're going to do is the first hour, Susan and I are going to go. Susan's going to be a special guest. Susan's going to come in, and the two of us will probably, mostly her, she'll walk you through some DocuSign stuff, and I will walk you through some contract stuff. So we're going to, like, for example, Donna's about to write an offer. You would say, all right, how does this even happen? Okay, we log into DocuSign, we find the right documents. I explain the documents while Susan is showing you how to manipulate them in the program. Okay, so that will be Friday. That'll be from 12:30 to about 1:30, and then at 1:30, Carrie Veal, who's one of our top agents, our top individual agent so far this year. I think she was number 2 last year. Who was the year before the Rookie of the Year, will be on the call to talk about her journey, right? Things that she did at the beginning of her business to grow it, and things she does now to maintain it and continue to grow it. So that'll be from 12:30 to 2 on Friday. Do not forget that we have, hang on one sec. Do not forget that we have our, there is a coaching call at 11 o'clock tomorrow. That's with Tony DeCello and Diana Kokoska. Diana Kokoska was the original author of Bold. She ran MAPS for a long time, 10 years or so. And her husband, Tony DeCello, is probably widely known as the best real estate coach out there. And the two of them are actually married. And they're going to be being interviewed by Andy and Leslie tomorrow. That's at 11 o'clock. And then we have our all group session at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And let's see, and don't forget about Bold, of course. Okay. All right. I want to go through just one more concept, and then I want to discuss the lease purchase that I said I would talk about. I loved the part yesterday in Bold where they talked about, don't think about your 4 hours of lead generation time as a chore. Think about it as it's the word they used was servitude, which I don't think increases my interest in it so much, but I liked the idea of helping people, right? 4 hours of servitude, 4 hours of helping people, 4 hours of solving problems, right? We have a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of cool technology. We got great systems, great support. Why don't we go share it, right? We've heard this analogy a few times the last few days in Bold, where we've talked about, if I'm walking, let's say Stephanie's walking down the street and I'm walking behind her and her wallet falls down, right? If that's something of value, if I see that happen, I'm going to chase her down and give her wallet back. Okay. So if I have something of value that I want to share or give, then I'm compelled to do so. Now, if Stephanie happens to be on the telephone when this happens and I have to interrupt her call to give her wallet back, does that mean I'm just not going to do it? No, I'm going to do whatever it takes to share the value I need to share, right? And I'm sure she would appreciate that. So when we're making our calls, we need to have this attitude that, like, we have a lot to share. This person's day will be better after they get done talking to me. Make sense? So I love that idea. Like, this is our time to help people and share and solve problems. Okay. And Cody said something, man, he's the king of one-liners. He said something to the effect of the people that hear from you now will listen to you later. Did y'all catch that? The people that hear from us now will be the ones that listen to us later. All right. Couple things. Let's talk about this idea of a lease purchase for a couple minutes. I sent a video to the group yesterday. Mike, did you get a chance to watch that?
No, not yet. No, I saw it come across last night. I was going to watch it this morning after we do our after we do the call.
So so that goes over some pros and cons. Essentially, I'll try to give you a very quick version of this. A lease purchase is basically 2 contracts in one. Okay, you have a lease. Let's say the lease is going to be for $1,600 a month, and the rent's going to be due then. This is the policy for pets and all that kind of stuff. It's a true lease. Then it's combined with a purchase and sale that says to be used with a lease purchase, right? That details the entire purchase and sale stuff, right? This is the closing, this is the closing cost, these are the contingency periods, this is the sale price, this is the type of loan, all that kind of stuff, okay? And basically what it says is that I will rent this home for a certain amount of time, and by this day I will buy it, okay? The statistics are, I don't know if I could find the source for this, but the number I hear most often is about 90% of lease purchases do not actually close. Okay. Lease purchases are oftentimes they seem to be brought up by people who don't really understand it, to be blunt. Okay. What they're doing is they're essentially locking in today's price so that they can buy it in the future. Okay, so let's say the home is worth 200. We lock in today's price, and then the idea is that in the future the price will go up. So if I'm going to close in a year and now the place is worth 210, then I'm able to buy it for 200 and everyone's a winner. I would definitely not be participating in a lease purchase today. Between the election and coronavirus and who knows what else, murder hornets, I'm not betting on that the prices are going to go up. If I was to bet, I'd probably bet they're going down, to be honest. Okay, so it's added risk. Okay, a lease purchase, generally speaking, you're going to put 3 to 5% down as a down payment / security deposit that is non-refundable. If you don't close by that date, I keep your money as the seller. Okay, however, if I was to rent the home, I'd only be paying a month's rent probably as a security deposit. So it could be thousands and thousands of dollars difference that the tenant / buyer commits if they enter into a lease purchase. And that's the deal, is if I'm going to commit to selling you this home at this price at some time in the future, then I want value too. It's got to be a win-win. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So oftentimes, this is what you were alluding to, Michael, a portion of the payment, the rent payment, becomes additional deposit, if you will. So let's just say, for example, me and you are getting into a transaction. You're the renter / buyer. I'm the seller / landlord. Okay. You say, hey, I'll give you $200,000 for the home. I'll give you $4,000 on day one as a non-refundable deposit. My rent is $1,500, and $200 of that $1,500 will be added to the deposit throughout the time of the lease. So let's fast forward 6 months and you're ready to buy. Okay, then $1,200 is now added to the $4,000, and that's essentially your earnest money or your deposit. If you close, that becomes a credit. If you don't close, I keep that too. Okay, so a portion of the rent payment can be allotted as a credit to the buyer. Now, the lease should specifically say it only becomes a credit if the payment's made on time or something of that nature, right? So,
also, Bill, would you say that by adding that amount that will be credited to the buyer, that then the landlord is charging them higher rent than normal that might be in the open market?
Maybe. I'll tell you, in 15 years, I've gotten probably 500 requests for lease purchases, and I've never done a single one of them. Because once I tell the buyer and the seller what the risks are, they're like, I don't want any part of this. Right? It's all negotiable, Pam. So like if market rent is $1,500 and the listing agent says, or the owner says, hey, I want a little bit more to take on this risk, then the buyer has to determine, or buyer / tenant has to determine, is this smart, right? Is this an appropriate way is this a risk I want to be involved in, right?
Yeah, and I'm with you. I've talked to a lot.
I have a tenant right now on a little condo that my wife and I owned that, without going into a ton of detail, she had some family tragedies happened, and she was kind of the main person that had to deal with it financially, and she had to file bankruptcy. And she came to me, and she offered me $50 off of the advertised rent, and agreed to and asked for a 5-year lease. 5 years. I said, hell yeah. You want me to box you up too? Let's do it. Right? And the reason is now I don't have to replace the carpet for 5 years. I don't have to paint for 5 years. I don't have to pay another realtor to bring me a new tenant for 5 years. I don't have any vacancy period for 5 years.
That's great.
See what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Now,
I got a rental in Smyrna. Every year I got to go in there to paint and touch up. Every year.
So you have to add that to your calculations to see if that investment is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
So I was willing to take on a risk, which is somebody who had some financial issues in the past, in exchange for what I consider to be a win, which is a long-term lease. Right? So it's all about creating a win-win. You just got to ask your people what they want. Right?
And I've
I
also
kind of
talked to a lot
preferred
of people.
what was probably a very informal version of a lease purchase, which, to be honest, I probably didn't do as thoroughly as I should have, which basically just said the seller agrees before they offer this home for sale or for rent to notify the tenant and offer them the home at a price and terms to be determined in the future for a period of 7 days, something like that. So let's say, Heather, you're my tenant. We do a straight lease, and you want to do a lease purchase and make sure you kind of wrap up the home, so it doesn't get taken from you like by another renter or by a purchaser or something like that. Then in order for me to market the home or lease it to somebody else or sell it to somebody else, I got to go to you first in writing and say, hey, I'm about to market the home for $175. You have 7 days to tell me if you want to buy it. Or I'm about to market the home for $1,700 a month. You have 7 days to tell me if you want to rent it. Right? And if you say, no, I'm not interested, then we move forward. That way you don't have to go in with the heavy deposit. You don't have to think that you're going to buy this home when chances are you're not. And you don't have to lose money that was hard earned for you. Right? The other risk basically is that today interest rates are at historic lows. Right? So if you could, not only do you have to be able to afford the monthly payment from rent, but you have to afford the monthly payment from a mortgage standpoint, right? And sometimes those don't match up. So you might be able to rent the home for $1,600, but you couldn't afford to buy it for $350. See what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that the person qualifies on both ends. And if, let's say, Heather can qualify for the purchase price at a 3.5% interest rate, what happens in 2 years when she wants to buy it and the rate's 5.5%? And all of a sudden she can't buy that home anymore, even if it's at a good price, because the interest rate's too high and she doesn't make enough money, right? Then she loses everything. I mean, there's just too much risk involved, in my personal opinion, and it's going to end up pissing somebody off, and somebody's going to lose. And I don't really like when people lose. I want people to win.
And I've found that most people that ask about a rent purchase, they think almost all of their rent is going to go toward a down payment, and they don't think they need to put any money up front.
Right. And 9 times out of 10, they have credit issues.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, they'd be buying now, especially with interest rates where they are.
Exactly. So the woman that I rented my little condo to, she's not going to be buying anytime soon. She just filed bankruptcy. So we make a great match. You want to hang out in my home for a long time? I want you to hang out in my home for a long time. We're perfect together. Right? But if you have credit challenges that you're trying to get through, and you're betting all kinds of cash that you're going to be able to purchase this home in 6 months or a year and a half, I mean, hell, they could change everything overnight and change the mortgage standards overnight. Now all of a sudden, okay, well, we don't do 5% downs anymore. We don't do 3.5% down anymore. FHA used to be 3, remember that? Now it's 3.5. So they change that stuff all the time. So I could be, doing everything I can do to get myself ready to purchase a home with standards that I'm used to. And all of a sudden the lending standards change and I'm out my money. It's just too much risk. So the big question is, if somebody's inquiring about a lease purchase, you want to find out, get them to a lender immediately. and find out what their issues are, and create a list of all the things that are standing in their way of buying a home right now. And then one by one, we're going to tackle those things. Okay. And
I'm
then
going to
the
watch
lender,
that video for sure.
the lender is, I sent it to everybody.
Yeah,
The lender is going to say, hey, if they do this, they're 6 months away. Or if they do this, they're 3 weeks away. Or if they do this, they're 6 years away. And then your job is to remind them that they had an interest in buying and helping them however you can outside of writing the check so that they can get their act together so they can actually start to build some wealth.
Thank you, Bill. I do wonder that, there's a lot of financial hardship happening right now in the US and globally. I just think that this is kind of like the start of probably several, maybe, families and buyers and these days who need that lift up, and trying to find creative angles like this. So not trying to say that's going to be like my wife and I's niche.
Oh, please don't.
No, it won't be. But for the people who we, sincerely love and care for in our first line of relationships, there's just like a creative angle that we can always put forward, to figure out how to help them to get back on their feet.
Well, every business decision that you make is going to be, is going to have an upside and a downside. And you as a professional need to evaluate the risks of both.
Sure.
And as a consumer, there's going to be upsides and downsides. And your job is to clearly, very, very clearly explain those to your clients, and then they make the decision. But you have to get them educated first before they are expected to make an educated decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, indeed.
And what we do mostly right now in these times of hardships is we just come from service first, right? We come from the heart, right? Heart up, head down. That's what Gary keeps saying. Heart up, head down. And I got to tell you, had I refused to work with landlords and tenants, I might still be waiting tables, to be honest with you. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And Bill, we had someone that we worked with, a gentleman, Bill, it was Shale, who, was having some financial difficulties after a divorce, which is so very common, but knew he wanted to buy a house, was a hard worker, was a man who, he didn't want a lot of stuff, stuff meant nothing to him, but he needed guidance in how to get to the point to be able to buy a house. So Clark Howard has some information on his website about how to improve your credit score. And I kind of have taken that, added a few other things to it to help apply to home buyers. I sent that out to him, and then periodically he would call me and check in and just say, hey, well, I've done this, I've paid this off, I've paid off all my credit cards, I've, my score's gone up. And about a year plus later, he bought a house. He bought a house this past February, right before all this started. And
right.
So,
and I flirted with the guy for about 7 or 8 years before I even handed him to you. So that was a long, long journey. But I held his hand a little bit, and you held his hand a little bit, and he needed a lot of hand holding. And quite frankly, pretty much all of our people need a lot of hand holding, right? People can tell when you're just in it for the cash, right?
Yeah.
If you do the right thing, man, you will have so much cash you don't even know what to do with it.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
You're very welcome. Do not forget, I've been uploading, by the way, everything. Other than this video here, we're completely updated on YouTube. So if you are not, you don't have access to the private YouTube channel, please let me know. You should have received a number of links about it, but I can send you another one. And if you have some questions about the 135, the 411, the economic model, profit share, any of that kind of stuff, watch the videos. Let me know how I can help you. If you ask Kelly, what is my profit share? You have it posted 2 days early, actually. So Kelly will tell you what your profit share was. Okay.
I have one question before you go.
Yes.
So on my listing, I'm trying to do a price drop on it. What should I do? Yes. I told her well, because she listed it really high to begin with, and we had
There's
already
graphs for that now.
discussed. Huh?
There's graphs for that on Chartmasters.
Graphs for it?
I mean, like the level of activity and interest is super high at the very beginning, and then you drop the price. And what happens when you drop the price versus not dropping the price? What happens after a couple weeks in the market?
The chart. Yeah, I saw the chart the other day. But what I was wondering is, do I have to write a whole new contract?
Happy birthday, Shona.
What?
You have to write a new contract? No.
No.
Just have them send you a message in writing. Send in like a little email that says like, a review of our conversation on the telephone. We will be dropping your price to $245 today. Please write back confirmed or something like that.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Good question. All right, y'all. See you in a bit.
Thank you, guys. Be well.